Hello sentient beings, welcome back to another episode of Basic Batches. My name is still Nick Coughlin and I have the documentation to prove it. In this episode we're going to be talking about one ingredient that I think, for me, has transformed the way that I viewed cooking in its entirety. I've always been a kind of meat and three veg person. Growing up at home meant that we would do steamed veggies and grilled meats, and for a long time I saw grilled chicken as the most dull thing you could possibly make. That is not the fault of my mother, who is a very good cook. Just in case she's watching, she is a very good cook, but this ingredient has really transformed the way that I do my grilled chicken. Also, it's transformed the way I do just all chicken. This ingredient is great for meat cooking and vegetable cooking as well. So vegans and vegetarians will definitely get some amazing use out of it. And it is vegan and vegetarian friendly. So there's no compromise whatsoever. The ingredient that I'm talking about is Shio-kōji, which you can buy like this. There are plenty of other brands that you can buy. I'm not being sponsored by anyone to promote this. I'm just doing it for your education and delight. So if you can see down here, which you probably can because I've got both cameras running, this one and this one, I have some chicken which is marinating in the Shio-kōji. You can probably note that it looks a little bit grainy. That's because it is. You can also tell that it looks a little bit slimy. That's also because it is. Don't worry, that sliminess all disappears when you're roasting it up. And if you're really worried about it, or if you're doing something like barbecuing or grilling, or broiling as they call it in the United States, you can always wipe the Shio-kōji off after it's done its marination. Shio-kōji is a marinade made with rice, a little bit of salt, and a mold of which I cannot pronounce. I'm not even going to try and pronounce it. It is Latin, so I should know how to pronounce it, but I've got it down there in the subtitles so you can actually see what it's called. There is a really good brief snippet about Shio-kōji on Just Hungry, so I will post that in the description as well if you want to follow it through. Shio-kōji is really designed to build the umami flavors. So I'm using it at the moment for chicken. It will work rather well for beef as well, although I prefer using miso for beef, and also use miso for lamb, but that's a different story. That's a different episode. So we definitely get a lot of use out of Shio-kōji for chicken, but vegans and vegetarians will get amazing results if they decide, or if you decide, if you're vegan or vegetarian, to use it on mushrooms, because it is really there to boost and bolster that umami flavor. It is a mold, and it is rice, so it is going to have an interesting sweetness to it, an interesting characteristic, but I found that that kind of sweetness, kind of umami flavor really transforms the chicken that I'm making, or the mushroom that I'm making if I'm doing something like mushrooms in a broth. It really bolsters that flavor and gives it a certain tang to it as well. It's really something that you have to try out. These chicken tenderloins that I'm doing, I'm probably going to do a bit of seasoning as well, and put some breadcrumbs on it and fry it up to have as sort of my variation of karaage chicken. May even do an episode on that in the near future. Might not be a basic batch, because who wants to be eating karaage chicken for a whole week? Okay, maybe it will be a basic batch. Or I could just grill this up or roast it up, and the sliminess, the graininess, that's all going to disappear over the period of time cooking it. Because it is a marinade and not a sauce, I would certainly recommend that you put the foodstuffs in it to start with, and let it do its thing. Let the molds have their effect on the flavor and richness of the food, rather than trying to spoon it on at the end to get a little bit of a boost in flavor. So yeah, if you see it in a Japanese shop at all, or maybe if you're wandering through Chinatown and you see a big Chinese shop, they'll probably have Shio-kōji. I'm not going to recommend any brand in particular because it's all pretty much the same thing and it will all do the same thing as long as it has Shio-kōji written on it. And I apologize to all the Japanese speakers and Japanese listeners out there to whom I am just butchering how it's pronounced. I would definitely say though that this is a try out sort of ingredient.